were.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I will tell you, I did not wake up the master. I remember my very first lead. I don't know if you ever heard this story. When I generated, I was in Virginia, and the lead that came in, I'm from the Pittsburgh area, and she came in with a Pittsburgh area code. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to be my new best friend. I can't wait to call her and talk to her. And yeah, she never answered the phone.
Yeah, that sounds similar.
And I'm like, I thought this was going to be easy. I thought all these people were going to want to talk to me because they were interested.
Doesn't matter how nice we are.
Nope, not always.
Get the sweaty palms and the sweaty feet, and I gave myself every reason why I shouldn't call this lead. I would overanalyze it. I would read all, like, everything they were looking at. I'm like, oh, that's a shitty property. I don't want to call her. You know, she came in at midnight. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. She's probably still sleeping. I gave myself every reason why not to call people.
Okay, I got to get rid of those then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing down the excuses to scrap.
They're easy to come up with.
Oh, yeah.
Quick at coming up with excuses of why not to do things.
Oh, for sure.
But, you know, it ended up when I would look at, I used to have a transaction board on my wall, and I had 50 line. I had one line. It was a big, I did a big whiteboard, and I would dry erase on it whenever I would have a settlement, and my goal was 50. And, you know, whenever you hit like March, April, and you look at that and you only got like 6 up there, and you're like, every month that goes by, I'm not filling in the lines. My closings aren't happening. And my fear of not hitting my goal became greater than my fear of the phone.
Okay.
And hence that's what began me just making myself do it. And all the while not realizing how poor I was at it, and how, you know, badly I did do it. I dumbed myself through it. But until I really had my systems in place and I was 100% confident that I was the best agent, that's when it changed my game. Because as I was, you know, talking to more people and hearing more stories of how unhappy they were with agents that they were speaking with, it started opening my eyes to, it's not so much how much we know, it's how much we care. And when I started to be able to come to my leads with that empathy, caring approach, it completely changed the game, because the fear was eliminated then, because I was more fearful that they were going to have a bad experience than them hanging up on me. So I became but just wait. And it reminds me, so whenever I just listen to, I'm going to call him Elijah because that's what I call him. Whenever I listen to that phone call that we're going to preview real quick, I'm like, but just wait, but just one question, because it's amazing how people are receptive to that, because we're programmed to go, but one more question. It's like, okay, well, what's that one more question? I got to know. So,
and I think you're showing emotion too, right? Like you're just you're kind of, they want to help you in the end.
Certainly. And all we need to do is break down their barrier and realize, Brad, we have the exact same barriers whenever our phone rings and we don't know who it is on the other end. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, especially today, we're putting a webinar together through 2020 with another lead response company. And I've known one of the guys since back in 2008. We started generating leads together, and we were talking about the history and what's happened through technology that's completely changed the game, not only for our perspective of calling leads, but from the consumer's perspective of their phone going from their landline to, oh my God, whoever's calling my phone, it's extremely important, to now, oh, it's the robo-dialer.
Right.
And there. So much has happened in the course of the last 10, 15 years. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
So, Crystal, where are we here?
Yeah. So, did you have a chance to listen to that call critique that I sent over to you? Did we can start off with that, perhaps?
Yeah, because it's only like 50 seconds, because she totally shut him down.
Okay. So, do you have it, or do you want me to play it?
I have it. As long as sometimes the volume doesn't play through.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and grab it quick. I wonder if I can get past. Yep, there we go.
You can hear it good.
Good.
I can anyway.
Should have paid attention to where it picked up so we could have saved 18 seconds.
Hello?
Hello, may I speak to Rupa?
Speaking.
Hi, my name is Alia. I am a local real estate agent in Burlington.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm calling regarding your online home search. I just wanted to see if you're finding your way around the site okay and if you needed any assistance.
Yeah, if I need any assistance, I'll call you. Yes?
No worries, no worries. So you've been looking for a while?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I keep on looking, and if I see something interesting, I'll call you. Okay?
No worries at all.
Okay, thank you.
Have yourself a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
She was so sweet.
That's one that I think a lot of people calling their leads encounter. If I'm interested, I'll let you know.
For
right?
sure. For sure.
And they're not going to let you know.
We know that.
Yeah.
What do we say? Brad, I'm going to ask you a question. I promise I won't put you on the spot, but I want you to tell me what, just from a consumer perspective, let's say you were the person that got that phone call. Explain why she was doing what she was doing. You feel why was she shutting him down?
You haven't called. Yeah, it's not on her schedule. You're not on her clock, and it's a stranger. So she's eager to kind of get back to anything else that she was entitled to do.
And, that's the one thing that I think gives us a hesitation of making that phone call, because we don't see what they're doing on the other end of the phone. We don't know if we've caught them at a good time. People answer the phones at the most peculiar times to me ever. I've had several people, I'm at a funeral, I can't talk. I'm like, how can you make that up? But why would you answer the phone? Or I'm in a meeting, I can't talk. Well, if you're in a meeting, why did you answer the phone?
Yeah,
or
I get
I'm
that a lot.
driving, I can't talk, but you answered the phone. That's probably, you can talk, but
Mm-hmm.
it took more to take your eyes off the road to answer the phone than it does talk on the phone. So now that I've already got you, well, the reason I asked you that is a lot of the reasoning of why we don't like to make phone calls is we feel that we're going to be bothering people. And when they confirm that on the other end of the phone, that's just yep, see, I'm bothering people. I'm a telemarketer. So it's switching that mindset to be able to go back to her. And I was really surprised that, because he's really good on the phone. And I was really surprised that he wasn't able to break through, and understanding that every day we get on our dashboard is a different day of energy that we are portraying. And some days those leads will just get me because I'm just not in the mood. But for the most part, whenever we know what we're up against and we're just programmed to be able to break through that barrier, because you could tell in her voice tone, she was okay talking. She just didn't know what to say. She didn't know what to answer. And she didn't even really hear what Elijah said, because he said, have you been looking for a while? And she says, oh, yeah. When I find something, she didn't even answer his question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I would have gone to her with that. Let me just ask you one quick question. What exactly are you looking for? Or why are you looking?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to make a move, what is the reason for the move? Because we have to find out, okay, she may be looking, but reality is, Brett, I don't know about your market per se, but if it's a really well-priced home and it shows really, really well, how fast will it take from the time it hits the market to get a contract?
48 hours, not even.
So understanding how IDX works, by the time the lead sees the house on their listing, whether it gets emailed to them or they check the internet, they will miss that property that might be the perfect property. Is that a true statement?
Yeah.
So if she's looking for that house and then she's going to call, she's going to be a day late and $1 short.
Yeah.
So we have to dig a little bit deeper. They don't know that. We give these leads way, way too much looking for
Credit.
credit. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because they don't know. They don't know. And it's our job to be able to create that doubt. So I want to know, okay, you may call me when you find something, but how many other agents have you said that to? How many websites are you looking at? How can I guarantee you, or how can I guarantee that you're going to call me?
Yeah, I guess when they're not receptive to your call, like to that once in a while call, that you know, you're not going to just call with a listing type of thing, because they haven't been very receptive to your first call. So you're not going to just give them that reminder call with a listing that should suit them best.
Exactly. And that's why we have to dig deeper, because she may just be looking because she's never going to buy. She may just be looking for that perfect model home that's going to give her the idea to remodel her house.
How do you drive people to questions that let you know how ready they are?
When you become the question asker, you're controlling the conversation. So when you ask questions, and there's a difference between yes/no questions and questions that require an actual thought response, the open-ended, closed-ended. So what we have to find out is, in order to unveil what their timeline or urgency or motivation is to find out what their current situation is.
Mm-hmm.
So finding out what their current situation is key to understanding why they're making that move. So why are you looking online? What has to happen to make that move?
But don't you find your first kind of line with people, sorry to cut you off, is, you know, hi, I'm Brad, I'm a realtor in Niagara Falls, or whatever you say. And then how's your home search going? I find that you kind of, because that's gives them identity, like it kind of lets them know who you might be, because they've been getting these listings. So
yep.
You're asking how their home search going, then you have to kind of transition to their motivation, which isn't always natural for me.
That's why I go right to the motivation, because if explaining to them about who you are and their home search, they're in multiple different websites, and I don't want them thinking about all the websites they're in and trying to figure out which one mine is.
Mm.
They know they're online, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to you. What matters to you is finding out what their situation is, because I can guarantee you the competition hasn't found their situation, because the competition does exactly what Elijah did and say, okay, well, call me back. Now we're going to mark her in, and I guarantee you he probably moved her to contacted and kind of put like a not interested or just looking or something in that category. And now it's moved out of the try to contact, where she's going to be getting more repetitive phone calls. So if we go right to, and I did notice that within his conversation, whenever he went right to that, he's, checking on your home search. Well, I want them to know exactly the reason I'm calling, and I'm going to call them on it because you were looking at homes in da-da-da. So, hey, I saw you were online and you were looking at homes in Niagara Falls. Yeah, well, great. What's your current situation right now? But if you're going at them with a concierge approach of, I want to help you with your home search, you are correct. It's a much more difficult transition, because then it's like, what question do you ask after that? But if you're going with the fact of, you're looking at homes in Niagara Falls, I got to know why, right?
Concierge doesn't come off as the expert, right? It just comes off as a helper.
And, I'm putting kind of one of my documents together, and, it's like, what do I specialize in? Well, I specialize in having great conversations by asking amazing questions. And that's really, at the end of the day, what it is, because it comes from empathy and understanding. Because anybody can ask questions, but when you're asking from a place of curiosity and care, they feel it on the other end. Whereas if I'm just coming at you from a home search approach, and I will tell you, I remember exactly when that all transpired years ago, because so many agents were so afraid to make phone calls. I tried that approach because, if you're coming at it from a concierge, then you're not a telemarketer, you're not selling anything. So it's easier to come at the angle of, you're looking for homes online, let me help get you a search set up. So we talk about how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what location, but we neglect to retain what exactly has to happen to make the move.
Yeah.
It's easier to get that information than it is to get personal information, if that makes any sense.
It does.
So,
Yeah. You're not getting the details that bring them to action.
mm-hmm. Exactly. And what was happening with me was I was taking too much time learning their home search, learning what kind of home they're looking for. I'm spending 5-10 minutes setting it up while I'm on the phone with them. Come to find out that it was for their mom or it was for their brother that might be moving. So kind of putting the cart before the horse, we got to find the urgency and the motivation and the reason before we actually spend time setting up that search.
I think with your experience or just being a little more bold is asking a more personal question, or not personal, but like a more, where's the motivation is a little bit more personal, right? So as opposed to how's your home search going is just like this soft opening.
Yes.
Whereas like, why do you want to move is kind of like, what's the meaning of life? It's like this big question almost, right? So it's a little more challenging to ask.
Yes. So when you go right to the punch, hey,
Yeah.
This is Beverly. I saw that you were online looking at homes in Niagara Falls. What exactly are you looking for?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, wow, I'm just looking. And to this lady's point, I'll call you. And so here's the thing. I'll call you when I find something. Okay, Brad, just real quick. I know you've probably been looking for a while. How do I know that you're going to call me when you find something? Well, I will. Okay, well, I'm sure you're in multiple other websites looking. I want to make sure that we're prepared when you do find that home. Can I just ask you a real quick question? Most people, and honestly, especially in Canada, Canadian leads are much nicer than American leads. I can promise you that. Usually you can break down that wall, but when you're not coming in with, the gun loaded with the questions, it's easier for them to hang up on you, or it's easier for them to get away like she did.
Now, are you then getting into like the importance or like say the steps of preparation and the importance of those steps? Are you trying to have that conversation, or are you leaving that to another call, like to a follow-up?
Depends on where it goes and what their motivation is. Because let's put it this way, if it makes sense for them to meet with an agent now because their home search is going to be within the next, weeks to months, I don't want to be on the phone giving them enough information for them to not need me anymore. I want to be on the phone creating that value of why it's so important to meet face to face, or why it's so important to speak with a lender to be prepared. I like to take them to the lender route first before meeting with them face to face, but it really all depends upon, other circumstances based on what is their expectation, the price range that they're within. Because if their expectation is a champagne taste with a beer budget, I want them to talk to the lender first.
Yeah.
But if their expectation is in alignment with the market, then I want to meet with them and have my lender on standby and know that my lender is going to be there if I call him while we're meeting.
Do you ever look to meet with people outside of a showing? Like, do you look to have that face-to-face if it's, how are you setting that up? Is it always because you don't want to push a showing if their timeline is say their timeline's in the spring now.
Yep.
And they have a relocate happening that you probably won't list. That happens in Niagara Falls with me all the time. They're in Timmins or whatever, and they're 3-4 hours away. They're going to have somebody locally sell. And then, do you try and say, are you interested in coming to a few showings here? We'll meet and that kind of thing. Or are you looking to meet prior to showing sometimes with certain calls?
It all depends, again, circumstances. If they're local, what I like to do is give them that option, because this is a relationship and this is an investment that you're getting ready to undergo, and it's a big decision. And I want to make sure that we're a fit for each other, because I don't want you just going out blindly and just trusting anybody with the investment you're getting ready to take on. So I do like to meet with them prior to, just to start creating that value, because it's a little bit more difficult for them to walk away from you once you've met face to face. It's a little bit more difficult to lose them. If they're out of town, I like to be able to have those conversations of doing a Zoom meeting just like this. And I think the most important thing is for you to have enough information on their likes and their dislikes. And how I created the value of wanting to meet face to face is, what is most important to you, Brad? So are you married, Brad?
Dating, not married.
Okay. So you probably know your wife enough, or your girlfriend enough to know kind of her likes and dislikes. If you were to make a purchase, what's most important to you in a home?
Well, that it suits both of us.
Oh, good answer. Good answer. Usually the man
definitely
has the want or the need of the basement, the man cave, the garage, the something, right?
Mine would be living room, entertainment space, and that kind of thing, and hosting space.
And what would hers be?
Hers would be backyard and garden.
So we have to take your wants, her wants, and blend them together. And the more we understand about those wants, the better I can help you and update you as homes are coming on the market. Because the reality is, Brad, in the spring, I don't want to be showing you 25 homes. I want you to know the market so well that when you see that house, you're going to know it. So the more I know about you, and if we're sitting together in an office space, or we're online together looking at the market and looking at the homes online, she can tell me what she doesn't like, you can tell me what you don't like, and then we can marry the two in together, and then we know we can basically narrow it down into probably a few neighborhoods or a few different locations.
Is that something you're doing sometime and finding effective? Like you're actually online with somebody that's kind of from a distance, and you're searching with them on the phone type of thing? Like, let's go on. For me, it would be realtor.ca. I'm not sure with you, it would be Zulu or whatever.
Yes, because we were in the DC area, and we had a lot of relocations coming back from England, because they were stationed over in England in government contracting, and they were coming back. And I would actually go and take my iPad and video the house. And that was before we had FaceTime. It was right before FaceTime that I would go and video the house and send them the video of the house.
That got me a deal just this past few weeks.
Yeah.
Doing that. Yeah.
There's so much power in it, because you're going above and beyond.
Yeah. You're understanding that they can't get there.
And the beauty of that is, Brad, you now have video footage of a property that you can go back into your agent locator and go, oh my gosh, I just went and saw this property. Check out this clip.
Right.
And give them a live tour to all of your leads in your dashboard that would make sense to mass market to.
Okay.
So you're kind of double open.
Do you know, and maybe Crystal can help, is there any issue with doing that? Is that going to be all right?
No, you can definitely do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, in your email, you can either include a clip of it, like a link, or you can create a GIF. And the GIF is like a moving image or video, like a portion of that video. So it looks like it's a video that they click, and then it opens it up in the YouTube or Vimeo or wherever you have it linked, that video, for them to watch. So definitely advantageous. And then it could be something as like an added service that you offer to people that are, coming from Timmins that can't get there easily. Like, is there a property here? I'd love to go. It's not easy for you, and don't expect you to drive hours to come look at one property. But if there is something that really catches your eye, I'd be
and then
happy to do
Toronto-based buyers are often looking for downtown cheaper properties, but want to have a basement that can be rented. So it's just a matter of, you go down those stairs and what's that basement like and what's the ceiling height. And I think that if I had a video on, I could send that to 20 investor type buyers. That
Absolutely.
Like
and even bigger outside the box, if you send that email out and that lead opens it, they may very well forward that to somebody that they know, and that person's going to try to click on that link, and they're going to have to register, because they're not going to have the link. So you can absolutely grow. What I did back in the foreclosure days in my market, the foreclosure agents were not taking pictures of the properties, and nobody could find any data online. The only way they could find it was coming to my website, because I would go to the hottest properties that would list on a weekly basis. I would take a couple snapshots and I would put the property into my website with the photos. That was the only place people could find extra photos. And some of them I would actually go back into the history, because most of the homes that went on as foreclosure, they tried to sell before it went to foreclosure, and I could grab photos that way. So I got very creative with my entire dashboard to be able to create a buzz. And then I was the website. So when we had auctions happening in our market, we put every auction property into our website, and I syndicated it out onto Craigslist and everywhere. So there was more photos on our websites. And it's just being a little bit different and thinking outside the box, because, you know, in real estate, if we're not sitting at the settlement table, we should be with a client. If we're not with a client, we should be obtaining a client. If we're not obtaining a client, we should be getting creative on how we can obtain the client. So if you're out previewing a home that is a hot property that you can email out into your dashboard, you're going to start spoiling your leads, because you're going to be the go-to person.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
And then
there's a lot of that type that end up like that one photo listing too, right? So it's just kind of like, hey, this should sell itself, investors attention investors and that kind of thing. But sometimes they don't, because you know the risk involved in the way that financing is going and that kind of thing with those type listings.
Exactly. Well, and you know, go in and even snap a picture of, oh my gosh, look at this fireplace, or oh my gosh, look at this bar.
Right.
And get that sent out. And Crystal, is there a way, I know I'm going way off base here, is there a way in Agent Locator that you can search the leads that looked at a particular property?
You can search through your leads based on the listings that they're receiving. You can, when you open up a listing, you can see how many of your leads actually looked at that listing when you look at the details, but you can't search based on that, but you can filter your leads based on the buying city, the buying price, and the buying property type. So if you're looking for people that are looking for detached homes in the Niagara area, you'd be able to pull those people up, because those are going to be the ones that are going to most likely engage in your communications with respect to a specific property. So you can definitely get creative and target. So that's great for showcasing specific properties, or if you have a listing coming to the market, or you're holding an open house. Those are the people that are more likely to attend that open house, because the price point and the property type location match what they're looking for.
So
can you do a search like that?
Go ahead, Brad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, I don't know if I've never been able to. One time I thought it would have been advantageous to do a search just like they would on realtor.ca. Like, can you do that from within? I don't know if we can. Like,
what do you mean?
Say we're looking at like your buyers, you got a few buyers and they all seem to be between 300 and 450 or whatever. Can you do 300 to 450 downtown Niagara Falls or whatever? Like, can I isolate that and look at that in any way?
Yeah, through the filters based on the, well, you can only do it by city. You can't do it by like community within the city. You could just do it based on the city, because, and the property type and the price point. Because we all know it, if you send a mass email for a new condo listing out to your database, anyone that's not looking for a condo is gonna be like, why are you sending me this? I have no interest in this. They feel like you personally sent it out to them. So it can actually have a negative effect rather than the positive one that you're looking for.
Exactly. So let me just, I'm going to go ahead and share his dashboard, and where I set up your filter. Clear this. And I will quickly go to, is it under location? What is?
Nope. So it's right there. So the buying city.
Oh, there we go. Yep.
So buying city, home price. Yeah. So if you type in there like Niagara, you'd have to put in the site, like just type in Niagara. There, Niagara Falls, yeah.
And then you can do
buying home type, yeah. So if there are people all looking for like detached, for example, it could be house on here, because he's a different feed. You got 72 people right now that are looking for a house.
What you have to be careful of here, Brad, is their pipeline status, because you don't want to just randomly send out a mass, hey, check out this property, if you just talked to them yesterday. It makes sense.
Right.
That's why the pipeline statuses are so important, to make sure when you do a mass email or a mass text, because what you can do is, well, I'm going to get technical. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but there's ways to do it where you can put links for the video into a text and send out a mass text where they can actually link on the video from the text. And what happens is, well, where was I going with that? You can send out the text through the video. I don't know. I was going to finish that conversation, but I lost it for a second. Oh, so if you're sending out 72, your phone's going to blow up. So you want to really narrow that niche down to a very targeted market that's going to make the most sense, so that you're going to increase the quality of them raising their hand. Like, eliminate the address. Don't give them the address. Go, hey, check out this property. Oh my gosh. So another little tip, I know this is all about lead generation, but I think this is such a great opportunity to talk about open houses right now and how you can increase your leads, is when you go and preview that home and you send out the video or you send out a quick picture. I never did my own open houses. In my small market, we never had anybody show up because it was such a small market. I had to go outside of my market area to drive buyers. So what I would do is I would find a hot property that would be of interest to people in my dashboard, and I would have a private open house. So it does not matter what agent has the market listed. It doesn't matter what company has the house listed. Because you can show any property in your market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can show any property in your market. So you could actually schedule an open house, say, I'm going to be at this house from 1 to 2 p.m. today showing this property. Pre-register, so I know that you're going to be at my open house. And then that way you have an open house. So if you find a really hot property, I used to do this all the time. I would claim properties. A property would come on the market. I'm like, oh my God, I love that house. I got to find my buyer. I would go and do whatever I could do to market it into my dashboard to find the buyer. And you
just make an open house of your showing time?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You may get bites, you may not get bites, but you're promoting into your dashboard, keeping your leads engaged. And what do all these people want? They want to see houses.
And are you pushing out mass text in terms of responses back more than mass emails, just because they're a little more personal and they're coming on the phone that people are on?
It needs to be a combination of just about everything. And, funny, we were having this conversation about another webinar on communication, because I was always a proponent against leaving voicemails, because the amount of time it takes to leave the voicemail, you could whip through more phone calls and get to the people that are going to answer the phone. However, the amount of phone calls that the average person is now getting on their phones, it's a little bit more imperative to be leaving quick voicemails now, letting them know who we are. Because we have to engage with them and do a little bit more than the competition. So I'm very careful with mass texting. You always want to do less quantity in text than you do in email. Because if you do 300 text messages, you're going to be a slave to your phone. But if you do 300 emails, you might get 2 or 3 responses, because those all come through in time. So when you're texting, remembering the biggest objective we have is just getting the lead to raise their hand. A simple question as, is this first name? Is this Joe? Is this Dawn? Is this Susie? Yes. Great. I saw that you were looking at homes in Niagara Falls. You're opening up the communication. So all of our text messaging should be quick questions just to get them to a response. Once we get them to that response, then we can start asking very short questions. Because texting is a little bit different than email. I know this with my son to be so true. If I ask 2 questions in one text, I don't get a response. Because it's like deer in the headlights. You ask me 2 questions in one text, I don't know how to respond to it. So I have to ask them one question at a time. Or if your text is too long, they lose interest and then they don't know how to respond, because they think they have to respond with the same
length
of the text.
Is that why you're filtering, like you want a smaller group? You're saying you want a smaller group for a text and not as big, like you don't want to send out even 20 because you want it to be that short, targeted.
Okay. 20 is okay. Just make sure you don't send it from the dashboard and then leave and not be able to respond.
Okay.
You want to make sure you can respond.
Or don't do it at the end of the day when you're like planning on leaving. A lot of people make the mistake of sending a mass text, not thinking about, oh, it's easy to send it, but you're going to get all those responses back. And depending on how many you text, will also determine how, like, kind of depend on how many responses you get. So definitely, you know, keeping that in mind. John has a question here. There's a couple questions in our Q&A. One is with respect to voicemail. So you've kind of switched with respect to that and leaving a voice message, and more or less you say kind of almost have like a call to action kind of voicemail. So not just like, hey, it's John, da, 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 da. Give me a call. It's more or less something.
I'm a realtor.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to me.
So you say, it'd be like something like, hey, you know, hey, John, I noticed here that you were checking out, you looked at that listing here on, you know, whatever street. There's something great I want to tell you about that property. Give me a call back. Bingo. Right. So it's creating that sense of urgency, something like a good reason for them to give you a call back. Like there's something in it for them.
Hey, Pete, I saw that you were online looking at condos in Niagara Falls. I just want to talk to you about some condos there. Give me a call back. That's it. And then just move on. Okay. And then texting, hey, I saw it, because what we're trying to do in that first couple of days is find out how can we get them to respond? What's their favorite form of communication? Because knowing these leads are in other agents' dashboards, and the average agent in your market is only going to attempt one time, and they're going to let everything else go in automation. So if we make 2 attempts, that makes us just a bit better than our competition. If we make 3 attempts, that makes us even more better. If we make 4 attempts, we're way above the competition, because the one that finds out where they are in the process is the one that's setting themselves up to win in the end. Because the more we know about when they're going to need our services, the more that we're building our pipeline and positioning ourselves to get lucky. But where we end up losing is not finding out where they are in the process, what their expectations are of the process, and what we can be doing for them in the meantime, and how and when they would like us to follow up. Let it be them that tells us when we want to follow, when they want us to follow up, and how they expect us to follow up. Because when people do what they say, that never goes unnoticed. Were you ever surprised when you would go, the dentist always surprises me. You go to the dentist, you have a procedure, and the next day they call to see how everything, they're calling to see, are you hurting? Did everything go okay? Do you have any other complications? And you're like, wow, I kind of feel important. And all it was, they had good systems. That's all that was. Wouldn't it be awesome if you went to a restaurant and they called you back the next day and said, how was your steak last night? You'd be like, holy hell, I'm going back there, right?
Yeah. It just shows that extra, attention to those who they feel are important. They want to build their business and they want you to come back.
Absolutely. And that's the huge piece that's missing, is that customer service. It's so missing. So yeah, those voicemails need to be short, sweet, and to the point. Because I did a survey. It would be interesting. I did a survey about 4 years ago, and I asked, do you answer the phone if you don't know the number? If you don't answer the phone, do you listen to the voicemail? If you listen to the voicemail, do you listen to the entire voicemail? Very low percentage listened to the voicemail, and even a lower percentage listened to the whole thing. So your voicemails, you have to get it out like this, just like that very first connection, because as soon as they hear you're a realtor, they're disengaging that voicemail. They're not going to listen to it anymore. And voicemail is kind of the new texting, because so many voicemails are coming up on people's text messages and their emails, or it pops up on their main screen of their phone. They don't even have to listen to it. So the shorter and more quicker to the point that you are, they know that they were online looking at a condo in Niagara Falls. All we want to know is why.
Yeah. I personally don't listen. Like if someone leaves me a voice message, it's like days, sometimes weeks. It's like, this message is about to be deleted because I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like I don't need to listen to my messages. And typically it's not anything important. So
Yep.
if it's urgent, I'm like, I'll keep calling back. Maybe I'll answer, but.
What a great point, Crystal.
Mhm.
Because just because we leave a message is not saying call me back. It's saying I'm letting you know who I am because I'm going to keep calling you until I do talk to you.
Mhm.
So it's not that set and forget.
Yeah.
It's I'm just letting you be aware that this number is going to keep popping up on your phone.
Mhm. Until you answer it.
Or until you block me.
Yes.
What was the other? I hope I answered the question. What was the
Yeah,
other?
the other question was just about a common question that comes across here is when a lead already says that they're working with an agent, already work with an agent, and how to handle that objection.
That's my fave. Brad, do you have any takes on that one? Does that one scare you too when I say that? What do you say?
Yeah, you know what? I kind of written them off so far. I guess take their word, and if they kind of, because it's usually them getting off the phone. It's kind of, oh, you know what? I was helping my mom, but she's got an agent, and we're good. Thanks a lot. And it's kind of like their closing statement. And I'm not as good as the but wait as you, and I need to work on those, but I don't often get those in. So I find it's kind of a closing note for some when you do hear that.
So those are the best practice because you've already lost them.
Okay.
And that's how I had to start looking at it. I didn't lose anything. So I couldn't say anything to screw up the conversation because the chances of me converting someone that's looking for their mother that has an agent are so slim. So I like to analyze because the more questions I ask, the more it helps me for the next conversation. Because a lot of times, just like we have the most common objections, we have the most common stories that are just in alignment because in inherent people have the same habits when they're going online looking for certain things. There's only a few reasons why people are looking for certain things online. So when they say that, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I don't want to step on any toes, but just wondering how does your mother know her agent? Oh, it's my sister. Oh, it's her best friend. Right? And say, I just got to ask because, I don't mind doing business with family, but I kind of find with family, I might not get the service that I expect because they just let me do my own thing. And then they're just there to help me out. They're not really doing the job for me like someone else that would be really working in my best interest. Oh yeah, I know that. Let me tell you about Susie. Mom wanted to go see a property and Susie was on vacation. I'm telling you, it is bizarre, the stories that you hear. And not being attached to the outcome of closing that deal, but learning that story to be able to use on another conversation is where the gold is.
Now, do you get yourself into conversations there just to extend that on if they're detail ready, if they're fully prepped and ready to purchase a house, like if that realtor has them feeling ready, or do you kind of just use it for your next practice?
It depends on where that conversation goes because I remember one very instinctively. The lady was looking for her son and he actually had put a contract on a property and it fell through. And I was trying to find out, well, why exactly the property fell through? Because I was like, was it a lowball offer or was it a shitty agent? Right. And she's like, I'm not sure exactly why. And I said, I don't want to step on any toes. I said, I just want to make sure that the agent's doing the best job for him because we don't want him to lose another property. She gave me his phone number. So it's really amazing when you're not attached to the outcome that it's easier to have a conversation because you genuinely do care. And that conversation just takes a whole different twist because they feel that. And yes, I need settlements to pay my bills. But the more conversations we have, the better we get at having those conversations and the closer we can get to converting more of them when we start understanding them on the other end. And, it's so frustrating when my boyfriend has a restaurant and we do catering. And people will call. He has a Cajun restaurant. And we're in Atlanta. He gets all of his product in from Louisiana, from New Orleans. There's nothing like it in our location. So one would think if they're calling for Cajun food and we are the elite, that they wouldn't really beat him up on price and try to tell him how to do his job, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they do. They price shop him and he gets pissed. And I'm like, okay, so wait a minute. Let's just step back. We, by nature, have been taught to negotiate the best price. We've just been taught that there's always a better deal if you just push a little bit more. If you just push a little bit more. But we forget the leads on the other end are doing that. So we have to take our hat off to say we're a realtor trying to close a deal to understanding all they want to do is save a buck and not be bothered. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. That's why they're so defensive. They just want to save a buck and not be bothered. Once we remove that fear that they have of us hard selling them, we start to break through layers of barriers in order to earn that trust. And the only way we can do that is by practicing the conversations. And yes, role playing is fun and amazing, and it's great because you know you're never going to get the appointment. You're more clear to say stupid things that just come to your mind, which is good because it helps you to open up to get a little bit more aggressive with words. But if you're practicing with a real live lead that you know that you've already lost, or you think you've already lost, you haven't lost anything. And it helps you improve your conversations and your questions, especially going back and listening to it. Because when I listen to phone calls, I'm always listening for, do I know what agent they're working with and how they met the agent? Do I know where they're looking? Do I know how long they've been looking? Because one of the biggest questions whenever they say they have an agent, great, well, how long have you been looking? If they say 9 months, that's a red flag. I want to know, why have you been looking for 9 months and haven't found anything? Well, I really haven't looked in any homes yet. I've just been looking online. Okay, well, now we're getting somewhere. So tell me, what kind of time frame are you looking at? If you've been looking online for 9 months, why haven't you put feet in a home? Well, I just really haven't seen anything that's met my expectations. Well, let me ask you, has your agent sat down and talked to you about your expectations and what we could possibly make happen for you? Guarantee 99% of the time they say no. Because all that agent is doing is relying on them to say, hey, I want to go see this property. But think about this outside the box, Brad. If you're talking to somebody that says they have an agent and they say they've been looking for 9 months because a property hasn't met their expectations enough to put the feet in the door, there's a problem there, right?
Yeah.
We have to define, what is that problem? Were you just not seeing what's in your price range? Which is probably it. Okay, well, tell me more about that. So what exactly do you want and what kind of price are you trying to obtain? Because you may not want them as a client. And let them stay with that other agent because they ain't gonna buy a house. Because the only thing that has to happen for you to have a transaction is their expectation has to meet opportunity. And if the opportunity is not in the market to meet their expectations, you're never going to have a deal. Right. So we have to find out what their expectations are and know that the opportunity is present in the market. So for example, we have a lead that is looking at a 200, well, okay, I'm going to go with my market. So let's just not even talk about price ranges, but I have a lead that's looking in a, let's just say $500,000 price range. And they have not found anything on the market that's met their expectations, and say that's the hottest price point in your market, and you have low inventory. Well, let me do a little bit more work for you. So let me ask you this. Has your agent sat down and talked to you about our market and how very few listings are on the market? No. Well, let me tell you, we don't just wait for homes to come on the market. We want to know exactly what you're looking for so we can go out and find the home for you. Because every day homes are coming on the market, And it's my job to find out what homes are going to be coming on the market, whether I list the property or not, whether my company lists the property, or whether they're just out there not knowing who they're going to list with yet. If we can define down the absolute perfect property, Brad, you can go back in your MLS and look at homes that sold 4 or 5 years ago that have equity. You now have a list in a community that you can reach out to those home sellers and say, I have a buyer. Have you thought about selling? And oh, by the way, the amount of equity you have in your home right now is about $50,000. Does that interest you at all? You may not make that marriage of that buyer to that seller, but you're not lying to that seller, and you may have just picked up a listing. So you can utilize, even if they have an agent. How many times have you ever heard from a lead, well, I'll use the agent that finds me the property?
Yeah.
Yeah. Find them the property. But no, we get all butthurt and take it personal because we're like, we want them to work with us exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
What was your question?
No, I guess it's, I don't know. I probably should focus on AgentLocator. I was looking at how you're contacting those people when you do find people, 4 or 5 years with some equity in the home, and how you go about reaching them.
I go back into the MLS. So 2008 was the lowest, or 2008, 2009 was the lowest that our market was. So I would go back into 2008, 2009 and search my solds. And I would cross-reference the properties to see if they've sold. And so I would do it in particular subdivisions. So I wouldn't do like the whole MLS. I would do pockets. So you can break it down in the price range. You can break it down in the zip code. You can break down in your MLS into certain dynamics to pull the solds. So if they say, I want this zip code, or I want this school zone, or I want this particular area, you can break it down. And then you can cross-reference the properties to see if they've actually sold.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that haven't sold, sometimes there is data out there. There used to be, it was called Zaba search. There is data out there where you pay a low fee for that, you can get the owner's phone numbers. And that's why everybody, and I don't know Canada's, rules and regs, but RedX, Mojo, you can get phone numbers from, they crisscross all that data. You just tell them you want solds from this date. And then they pump that information into your Mojo or RedX or whatever account. There are ways to find phone numbers, but at that instance, that would be a mailing campaign. I have a buyer that's looking in your neighborhood, and then following up with a door knock, honestly. Because if you do have a valid buyer and you can make a $500,000 sale, if that property could possibly work, why wouldn't you want to go preview it and let them know? So it takes the bait and switch out of the whole sale of it, because you actually physically have a buyer. But, and the reality is they may be working with another agent, but that just opened up opportunity for you to do research in your market.
Right.
For somebody that is looking in a location.
And you use your database as leverage also when you're like going for listing appointments. I've got, X amount of buyers in my database personally that I'm sending listings to in this area. Across the platform, we've got X amount of 1,000 people looking for a home within this price point that are going to be exposed to your listing. So it can be advantageous knowing that you have this database of potential buyers that are just waiting for that right property to come across, and yours might just be it.
Yeah, 100%. I have to make one phone call just because we haven't made any phone calls.
Sure.
And we're gonna get lucky.
I feel it.
You are calling unavailable at the moment.
No. I feel like this person was supposed to be Anita Home.
That is hysterical.
I muted my laugh there.
That is hysterical. So what I did in your dashboard, Brad, just to kind of pull up the top priority leads, is I pulled phone validity, unknown or valid.
We're sorry, the number dialed is not in service.
All right, so we're going to mark that as a wrong phone number. Well, so I cleaned up a little bit. I cleaned up
There you
one.
go.
Thank you.
And that's why it's so important to have them marked for twofold reason. They don't fall on your dialer because you're not pulling the invalids. And when they log back in, they're going to get a prompt to update their phone number. But what I did whenever I scrubbed your list is I had gone to, let me just go back to my home screen here so you can see it. When we first started talking about your dashboard and mass texting or mass emailing certain properties, everybody that we've never spoke to, they should be a not set new lead or tried to contact, so that we know that whole list of people. There's no rules with them. We just have to find out where they are in the process. Period. End of story. Because we've never physically spoke to them. Where when you move up in the pipeline of made contact, we've had a conversation and they've either qualified for a reminder because we have a very high chance of sitting at the settlement table with them, or they've given us a reason why they're not in need of our services right now. So we can start, defining them in the aisles of the grocery store and plugging them on the shelves to be able to quickly identify what their situation was: renting, divorcing, relocating, retiring, just looking. I'm just looking, I'm 2 years out. I'm just looking, I'm 3 years out. So we can start subcategorizing them so that whenever we do go to mass message, we can mass message everybody in the tried to contact. And we're not going to be stepping on any toes of someone that we have recently spoke to that might be giving steak to a vegetarian. So I did pull just those categories. And then also I didn't want the wrong phone numbers falling in because I just like to click, click, click. So I did my phone validity. The next best priority of a lead are the leads that are actively engaged in the email activity. And that's why it's awesome to be sending out videos, emails, because when they have any type of email activity, it creates an action and they pop up in your call filter list as a priority because they've engaged with the email. And then you have a reason because they opened the email or they were looking at a property. So you have a reason to reach out to them. So if you have a dormant lead that came in months ago that nothing really struck their fancy, but you send out a video of a property and they open it, ooh, that lead just moved up a little bit in priority because they opened your email. So that's how I kind of sorted out your leads, and it gave me 39. Well, I moved the one to invalid phone number, so it went from 40 to 39. But if we talk to every single one of these, because I set this filter and I moved them to contacted or I moved them to a bad phone number, you would be down to 0. The filter would eliminate itself. So that's how I like to do my filters. I know I got 39 phone calls. I may make 10 today. I may make 20 tomorrow, but I can get through this list in a matter of the next couple of days, and they're my highest priority leads.
Right.
And just remember, the only thing that we want to find out is you were online looking at, let's see what this chick was looking at, or this gentleman was looking at. So your primary market must all be Niagara Falls.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. You were looking at an array of different styles of homes in Niagara Falls here. So all we want to know is, what's your situation right now? Do you own? Do you rent? Because that tells you a multitude of things. Oh, how long have you been in your home? Well, what's the reason for the move if you were to make a move?
We get a lot of investor type, I would say, just because the pricing's a little lower here, a little more favorable. So we get, people with, 3 times the market price looking this way for an investment piece.
With investors, my rule of thumb is always, is this your first investment or have you acquired other properties? What do you think the normal response would be to that question?
I've purchased before.
Okay. How many?
2.
Okay. So, and I don't know in Canada, are those cash purchases or are you financing?
Financing.
Is there any loan terms that would prohibit you from having X amount of homes? Because we do have that in the States.
Is there any what, sir?
Is there any loan terms that would prohibit you from financing multiple investment properties?
No.
Okay. So what my go-to question would be is, would this be for a flip or would this be for a rental opportunity?
Rental.
And what kind of return on your investment are you looking for?
Basically just to break even.
Break even. So in regards to financing, so this is where you're going to find out how much money they're putting down, how much money they have, and you kind of have an idea. Is your market around about like that what are investors looking at? 350?
Yeah.
So at 350, obviously they have to put 20% down on investment property, right?
Yeah.
So do you know how much your payment would be on a $350,000 house?
Do I know or did they know?
Would they know?
If they bought two, I'd say half of the time, yes.
Okay. Because that's where your value add's going to be. Because I want to make sure that we're not going to, be looking for the wrong properties. I want to make sure that you want to break even, but I want you to make money. So the more information that I have, the more we can work on saving you money and putting some cash reserves in your pocket every month. So in order for me to do that, there's a few things I need to know. What are your expectations in a home? What are you looking at in regards to repairs? And do you have someone to go to know exactly what your payment would be on a particular home? Because I want to make sure we're prepared if a property does come on the market, because I'm going to kind of scrub and see what's out there and use the whole thing. Brad, how many agents are in your brokerage that you're affiliated with?
I moved from a large brokerage to a smaller one. I'm just with 5 people.
Okay. But you probably still know people at the large brokerage, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I have a team of other agents that I work with. And through all of us collectively, we're always going on listing appointments, and we always know of homes that are coming on the market before they actually hit the market. So the more I know about your wants and your needs, the better I can be prepared to help you. And I just want to make sure if that property comes on that we're prepared to move forward.
Right.
Is that helpful for the investment conversation?
It is. It's the thing is they seem to have this like you're seeing here. This is what I see often. This kind of open search. It could be commercial. It could be anything. And just trying to make that something tangible is the hardest part. It's just like here's your return of investment. And I think maybe just myself having a feel for what their return of investment would be, and just increasing my own comfortability with that ROI and what it would be for them.
The knowledge. And that's where use your investors to gain that knowledge. They love telling you all about their business. They love telling you all about their wins. So tell me about your other 2 properties and kind of how did you acquire those and what are you looking at with those?
I have 2 rentals in Milton, and I went to the same mortgage broker. Somebody helped me out, and I had a loan from my parents for the first one, and then I rolled that and leveraged the next one.
Gotcha. So what's the perfect scenario for you on this purchase? What exactly does that property look like for you? What is a win?
Niagara Falls. It kind of reminds me of Milton because I don't have to be there. I want to do whole house rental and then kind of take some of that money eventually from Milton and move it to Niagara Falls and start to kind of trickle with a few houses in Niagara Falls, whole home rental.
Yeah, and I would just dig. And I would maybe even ask them, what made you purchase the ones that you purchased? What was it about those properties in particular?
Right.
And that way, learn from them. So you're asking them questions to let them talk about themselves. Meanwhile, you're gaining data and you're learning what investors are actually looking for. Because they love to talk about their investments and their wins. They
do. And yeah, it's a good point of asking how they're doing on their current ones or how they did. To get them to talk on their wins, you're getting details. Yeah.
Because that's going to help you understand what they're looking for.
Right.
And then they may tell you about the other properties that they put offers on that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why didn't those work? Why did you walk away from those? And then you can make those determinations of, this is a cuckoo investor because they just like to lowball everything. And I don't want to lowball. I don't want to be that lowball agent that writes 20 offers to win.
Can I shoot a question at you?
Yeah.
So something I've talked to Crystal about is like, I'm getting better and better with the 0 to 5 seconds of speaking with people, that kind of opener, the quick one. And I need help on the 5 to 15s, like the that first question or that icebreaker, if you will, kind of like the bar icebreaker type of thing, you know, where yeah, they've got your name now, but then you know, what was it, Elijah or something like that. He kind of had the concierge and just kind of coming away from that concierge. Is that just coming through, you know, market knowledge, confidence, and kind of knowing, like, are you just feeling out that you'll have a question to ask and an answer at the same time, like to keep going one at a time and trickling with that?
It's genuinely listening to what they're saying and coming back with a question. And sometimes if you don't know what the question is, I can go back and say, so Brad, what I hear you saying is you're struggling with the conversation after that first initial break. Tell me more about that. Right? And you're going to tell me more about it, right?
And are you like, I think Crystal mentioned this, are you asking for like is your first question simply just the name? Is the name right? Or do you kind of roll through that? Or do you say, hi, so-and-so, I'm Beverly?
So sometimes I'm like, hey, Brad, or hey, is this Brad?
Right.
Yeah. Hey, I saw that, this is Beverly. I saw that you were looking at, you know, several different style of homes here in Niagara Falls. Tell me about that. What's your current situation? Oh, I'm just looking. Well, what exactly are you just looking for? How long have you been looking? Oh, and what's your current situation right now? That is always my go-to. I've got to get to, what is your current situation right now?
What is your current situation? Yeah. Now, say someone says
people play the dumb card and go, I'm sitting in a red light, right? And then you laugh and you go, oh, well, do you own or do you rent? Because that's the situation you're trying to find out. Do you own or do you rent?
Right.
And then the other pieces that we have to find out is, oh, how long have you been in your home? If they rent, oh, awesome. Are you lease term or are you month to month? So now we have a time frame.
That's finding the time frame, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if you were to make a move, what's that reason for making a move? Tired of renting, or I'm downsizing, or I need a bigger house because my family's growing. Do you have a time frame? Have you thought about it?
When you have somebody that asks for, you know, they give you this whole spiel about, I've had a few of these. We had this home and we had to sell it, and now we want waterfront and this and that. Like, when they have the impossible home, like, are you deleting lead, or where are you going from there? Like, if they want this waterfront property for $300,000 and it hasn't existed for 30 years, what are you doing with that?
So you're saying they have a home to sell and they want to purchase a home that's non-existent?
Yeah, the home that, like, you know, they're backwards on their perception of the market, and they think that they can have the world for some pocket change, but they don't have the money and they don't have the means.
So let me ask you this, Brad, as far as your current situation, is it something that you have to do, or is it something you just want to do?
It's something I want to do.
Okay. So there's a big difference between want and have. So in reality, you've probably been looking online enough to realize there's no homes on the water at 300,000, correct?
I haven't seen anything yet.
Exactly. Because the minimum price on the water is going to be XYZ. So let me ask you, Brad, it's a want to. When do you think in the future it will end up being a have to?
Probably within a year.
Okay. So what I want to do in the meantime, I'll continue to send you the lakefront properties, but what I want you to be looking for is really be paying attention to the prices that you're seeing and what they're coming on the market with. How long have you been in your home?
15 years.
Do you know how much equity you have in your home?
Not really.
Would it potentially be helpful for you to know the equity that you have in your home? Maybe it's not about a $300,000 house. Maybe it's about a $300,000 mortgage. What if we could bump that price range up and put the money down from the equity in your home? It would broaden our search results much greater.
Okay.
We have to solve their problems. And it's always going back and asking them. And that is one of my favorite questions whenever I have those people that are looking for the needle in the haystack. Is this a want to, or is this a have to? Because some people are in dire situations that they may be living with their mom, and their mom just passed away, and now the property's going to an executor of the will, and they need the person out, and this person's like, shit, I gotta move, and I don't know so it's a have to. But we may not be able to meet their needs, but we got to be honest with their needs. Okay, so this is a have to for you. Let's get all the data that we can get. What are your expectations of a home for you to move into that's going to make it worth your while so you don't have to rent? Okay, we got that. Now, what is your affordability of that expectation? Okay, well, that might not work. Let's talk about plan B. We may have to rent for 6 months. We may have to rent for a year. So it's a have to. You always got to fall back on what's our plan B if I can't make it work. If it's a want to, well, let's talk about when it might move up that ladder of I have to.
How do you get over that fear of like asking that personal question of like, I don't know, I just think about, you'd step into equity and you'd step into kind of somebody's finances and their, how things have gone for them in the last 30 years. It becomes this big, like, so do you just kind of, some people are not very forthcoming or whatever. They don't want to tell you that. So
it's very true. And that's why that want to or have to question is so, so vital. Because if they say, I have to have a home on the lake because my wife has cancer and she only has about a year to live and I have to get her on the water before she dies, then you go into problem solving mode and see, how can I make this happen for this person? Mm-hmm. So the have to is more of an urgency than the want to, because the want to, you're never going to get them off the fence. The have to, you have to find what their expectation is to find if there's an opportunity for them to make it happen. So it's going into problem solving mode and going above and beyond. And, as far as your question of getting over that fear, you don't. You just move through it. And I heard something really great the other day. I don't even know who I was listening to, but it was kind of Tony Robbins-ish. And Simon Sinek, it was actually, he wrote Start With Why. Fear and excitement are the exact same feeling. And he was talking with Olympists and asking them, are you afraid to compete? They're like, no, I'm so freaking excited to compete. But originally they were fearful. So if we can turn our minds into the fear and say it's excitement because I don't know what is going to happen, and just saying I'm excited about it because it's the same feeling that your body knows. It's just our brains telling us to be afraid of it. Because if you're going to make something happen for somebody that they're struggling to make happen, it is simply a quick adjustment to location or price range if they have to make something happen. And if it's an adjustment to price range, what could we possibly do to make an adjustment? Is there different lending programs out there? Do you have maybe more equity than what you thought? Do you maybe have this or that? Let's walk through every scenario for you to be able to make an educated decision. And Brad, I always take away the sale from them. I can't guarantee you I can make anything happen. I cannot guarantee anything. And I'm not even saying this is something that's going to happen, but I'm going to do my damnedest to see what we can do, because it ain't over till the fat lady sings. Mm-hmm. So the fear shouldn't be there, because you're genuinely going above and beyond to make something happen. And that's why those questions are so, so vital, because if they don't really want to move, and they're just like pipe dreaming, no matter how much you exhaust your resources, you'll never make them move. That's why it's so important to find out what their situation is, to be able to know how much time and energy to put into it. Because I've asked people, if it's something that I can make happen for you sooner than later, would you potentially move before your deadline? Well, yeah, if the opportunity came up, absolutely. Well, let's see what we can make happen, because we know what our market is right now. Prices may go up in 6, 8, 9 months whenever you're ready to buy. And I don't want to put you in that position if we find an amazing deal right now that we could potentially make happen.
No, that's great, Sarah. I'm just writing notes.
Awesome. We went way over, and we still have participants. Is there any questions, any comments, anything that we can answer?
Not in everything. Everything's been answered as we've been going along. I am looking on Facebook, but nope, there is nothing. There was one on Facebook, but I already answered that. So we are questionless.
So Brad, what I want to leave you with is, don't feel like you have to go in your dashboard and have a million conversations and conquer all 39 of these phone calls. Just start with 1 or 2 at a time, and then move up to 3 or 4 at a time. Don't feel like you have to conquer the world.
Right.
So I heard the other day, what we reveal, we can heal. If you know that there is a fear of the conversation whenever you're making that phone call, feel the fear and do it anyway, right? Because that is what, action is what brings about our growth. And if we fail through it, you may get off the phone and go, man, I jacked that up. But guess what? At least you had the opportunity to jack it up, because 2 days ago, you wouldn't have even had the opportunity at all anyway, so you didn't lose anything.
Yeah, if you're not willing to fail.
Yes.
But there's reward. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm a big proponent that you catch the right people at the right time that are actually waiting for your phone call. Depending on where our mental state is, whenever we're prepared to sit down, and remember at the beginning I said with Elijah, I said I was really surprised that she beat him, because he's usually really good on the phone. And I'm taking that as he was in a hurry, or it was just an off day.
Yeah.
And we have those, and that's okay. And I've told my inside sales girls, and I've told my agents, if you're having a really shitty day and nothing goes right, don't call your leads, because that's exactly what you're going to get. So when you sit down, go, these people want to talk to me today. And they want to talk about real estate, and they want to hear what I have to say. And it's just
well, Crystal will tell you, it kind of got me in a little bit of trouble, because I kept on moving it to talk to lead, because I was optimistic, and then I would forget to undo it.
Yes.
But I'm going to take a quick opportunity to thank you both very much, and probably have to leave myself. Thank you, Beverly. You're not as scary as I thought you might be. I mean that in like a very, very knowledgeable and that type of intimidation. But thank you. I called you the queen to Crystal before we got online. But thank you both.
You're very welcome.
And everybody, I guess we won't see you until next year, right, Crystal?
No, I know. So, and we might have to, where's my calendar? Because we ain't doing it on the 1st, I'll tell you that much, because that's the first Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
So we might have to do it on the following week, on the 8th,
Okay.
maybe, and then do it on the 2nd and 3rd week. So we'll figure that out.
Perfect.
Everyone have a very happy holiday season.
Absolutely. And Brad, thank you.
Great.
All right. Thanks for joining, you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks, Beverly.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.